Hey guys, I'm so excited to give my spoiler thoughts on The Last of Us Season 1, Episode 3 because this one is a doozy. Listen, fans of the video game will be very excited to dive into Frank and Bill's relationship. That's right, we finally get to see Nick Offerman as Bill, and he truly delivers. But let me tell you that they changed a lot of things from the video game. So which part did I like more? Let's dive into it and let's talk about it. Again, there are going to be spoilers. So if you have not yet watched the episode 3 of The Last of Us on HBO or HBO Max, come back because I don't want to ruin it for you. Okay, so this episode starts off with a little bit of the aftermath of Tess's death. We saw her die, sacrifice herself at the very end of episode 2, and we see Joel and Ellie kind of heading towards Boston, and she gives him a little bit of attitude and says, hey, yo, don't blame me for this. This was not my doing. Listen, this is classic Ellie. I love Ellie in this series. I love her sass. I love her attitude. So they continue on their way and they get to a Cumberland Farms gas station, okay? Again, these sets look so much like the video games. It is insane. They go inside and Joel is like, hey, I have a stash in here kind of somewhere. I got to get my bearings. Like, kind of don't mess with anything. And she's like, I'm going to look through everything. And he's like, hey, this place has already been picked over. And she's like, whatever, I'm going to look anyway. So she goes into a back room and she finds a trap door, which she climbs into because of course Ellie does this. And there's an infected down there. Now he's trapped. And so she gets like really close to him. She takes her knife, she like cuts him. And the fungi like puffs out, whatever you want to call it, like we saw in the previous episode when we saw the autopsy, which is really, really cool. So she's obviously just kind of exploring. She's curious. She's trying to figure this all out. And then she kills him with the knife. She finds tampons down there, which, let's be honest, that's like a super sweet find, especially for a girl her age. I would be thrilled. And so then we move on, right? She goes up. She got away from the infected. She's like, oh, Joel, whatever. He finds his stash and they go. So they are now walking, heading on their journey, and Joel kind of stops suddenly and says, listen, Ellie, we should stop going this way. Let's go another way. And she's like, why? Is it quicker? Are they infected up there? And he's like, there's just something you shouldn't see. Of course, Ellie being Ellie is like, well, I'm going to go anyway. So they go, and then this part was kind of like gut-wrenching, right? You kind of feel it. Again, this whole thing, it kind of feels like something that could happen. So little bits and pieces are absolutely terrifying. So you just see like a lot of skeletons, luggage, debris, bits of clothing, and then Joel kind of explains, yeah, they evacuated small towns and we're like, hey, we're going to the quarantine zone. But if the quarantine zone was full, they would just kill people. And Ellie's like, well, why would they just kill them? And Joel has this line, dead people can't be infected, which is kind of, it hits you a little bit. Hits you a little bit right in the guts. Like I said, this was intense. So then we get a flashback to Bill and Frank. The way they did this, by the way, with the camera was very brilliant, showing kind of the debris of, I think it was like a blanket, and then you see like that person in the time back then. So we get to see what goes down September 30th, 2003, which Joel has already mentioned that the 26th of September 2003 is when the outbreak occurred. They're not really sure how it happened. We did get to see a little bit of it in the previous episode, and then Joel just kind of confirmed saying it probably mutated. It got into like the sugar or flour supply, and then that, was used to make food, which was sold all over the world, and it was like, you're screwed, right? Basically, that's basically what he said, but not in so many words. But now we get to see Bill and Frank, and so we start off with Bill on September 30th. Listen, if you played the games, he's a survivalist, man. You see him in front of a computer. He's got tons of guns, supplies, whatever. He's all ready. He goes out to the town. They've already all been evacuated. So, of course, he's thrilled. And he pretty much takes over this town for himself. Like, he had plans, man. He goes and he gets himself a boat. He gets barrels of gas. He gets tons of wine. I mean, so much wine. And he's just ready and he's prepared for this, right? He gets more guns. He's got supplies for days, okay? After we see a montage of him kind of setting up this town for himself, he's turning on water, he's turning on gas. Like, this guy knows what the heck he is doing. He got like a massive generator too. We cut to 4 years in the future where there's an alert on his security camera, which, let me tell you, he has like put a fence around his entire freaking town. The guy is brilliant. He has all these traps, which is very similar to who he is in the video game. Now there is a pit. At the bottom of the pit, he finds Frank, who's immediately sassy. Like, he's like, okay, I'm hungry. You know, he has the thing to test him. He knows he's not infected. And so he's like, all right. So he brings him in and he gives him some food. He gives him a shower. He gives him fresh clothes. And then Frank and him kind of immediately have this bond going on, which is weird because Bill's very much a loner, just very clear from the first moment we see him. So the two of them have this bond. Frank like sees the piano. He's like super excited. He sits down and starts playing and singing, which Bill hates. Bill's like, no. Then Bill sings and plays the piano, and Frank is like moved to tears by this. He sits down, kisses him, tells him to take a shower, and then waits for him in his bed. And I think we all kind of know where it goes from here. Frank tells him that he's not a whore, and he doesn't just do these things for food, for a meal, so he's going to stick around for a while if they're going to hook up, and Bill's cool with that. Now we jump 3 years into the future, and Frank and Bill are fighting. Frank is saying he wants to fix up the town, he wants a lawnmower, he wants paint, he wants to just live in a pretty place. That's the aesthetic he wants. He also admits that he's been talking to someone on the radio, and he'd love to have friends and have them over for dinner. Well, it turns out it is Tess and Joel, so there is that connection. That is how Joel knows who Bill is. They are eating a lovely meal because, of course, they live in a fantastic place, so they've got vegetables and meat and wine, and it's like, holy cow, if you're going to be in the apocalypse, this is the way to live, guys. So Tess and Frank go inside, leaving Bill and Joel to talk. Joel's kind of like, hey, we got stuff you don't have, we can work together, we can make trades, and Bill's kind of like, no. Not gonna happen, leave, blah, blah, blah. And Joel's like, listen, we're decent people. Next people on the radio might not be so decent. Well, then we fast forward again, 3 years later, so now we're in 2013. Frank tells Bill that he has something to show him, and it is a strawberry patch. And he says, hey, I traded the seeds to Joel and Tess while you were gone, so clearly they ended up working together. That night, raiders come, and Bill gets shot. And you think maybe this isn't going to be too good. Obviously, at this point, things are maybe a little bit different from the video game already. So it's kind of like, I don't know what is going to happen next. Well, Bill's basically like, call Joel. I have lists. Like, let me die, whatever. And Frank is just not having it. Frank is not going to let him die. Now we fast forward to the present. The 2023, right? And we see someone in a wheelchair. As it pans closer, you realize it is Frank, not Bill. Frank has some serious health issues, and he kind of drops a bomb on Bill. He tells him, listen, this is going to be the last day I'm going to live. I've got it all planned out. We're going to go pick out clothes from the boutique. We're going to get married. You're going to cook a delicious meal, and then you're going to take pills, crush them up, put them in my wine, and I will go to sleep in your arms. It's absolutely adorable. I love this aspect of it. I love a good love story, and they have a great love story here. They do all of this. It's a montage. I tell you, I was in tears watching them like exchange their vows and get married, and it's clear that Bill is like not prepared. He's not ready for this. He loves Frank, you know? He comes out, he brings the wine, he pours the glass, he puts the pills in it, he gives it to Frank, who chugs it. He then chugs his own wine, and it is very obvious that Bill put pills in the wine bottle before they even got there. And he says, yeah, he's killing himself too. Frank jokes that he should be mad, but it's extremely romantic, so he's not upset. Now the two go up to bed, and we assume they die. Now we go into, we're still in the present, right? It's 2023. So Joel and Ellie show up. Joel's very obviously flustered a little bit. He's at Bill's. He knows the gate pass to get in, but he's looking around and like the flowers aren't kept up, and that's something that Frank always did. So he knows there's something wrong. They go inside the house. They find a letter that was left to whomever, but probably Joel, and it basically says, listen, we were put here to help people. I hated people, and I was super happy when the world died, when everybody died, is what Bill said. He said, but then I found someone that was worth saving. Take my stuff, protect Tess, which is, oh, rest in peace, Tess. But maybe now Ellie, right? Take my stuff. This is what we are here to do. The letter was dated August 29th, 2023, and it's clear that just a little bit of time has passed. There is still food out on the table, other meals that they didn't finish, but it is covered in flies, and you can tell it's been at least probably a week. Joel tells Ellie they need to go to Wyoming. He needs to find his brother Tommy. Tommy knows the fireflies. Like, yes, you can stay with me. I got some ground rules, but let's just go, all right? He kind of decides because of Bill, like, okay, I will take on this responsibility of Ellie. Not to mention Tess was like, keep her safe. So Tess also kind of gave him this task, and it just feels like this is what he needs to do. He finds a truck. They go on their way. Of course, the song playing in the truck is the song that both Frank and Bill sang at the beginning. After Ellie had taken a shower before they left, she did find a gun and put it in her backpack. Now she's been asking Joel for a gun and he keeps telling her no, so now she just went ahead and took one because, of course, this is Ellie. And that's how Ellie operates. So the big thing here is the differences between Frank and Bill, because in the video game, we only see Bill. We never really see Frank. Well, we see Frank's corpse because as Joel and Bill are looking for a car battery, they're having to fight infected, yada, yada, yada. They find refuge in a house where they see a hanged corpse. Kind of startles Bill. Turns out it's Frank. Frank had become infected and killed himself so that he would not turn into a monster. So there's that difference there. Not to mention, of course, Bill's alive, so that's a little bit of a difference. But a letter was left, a suicide note, where he tells Bill he hated him. And that kind of also knocks Bill back, and he throws away the note, and we never really see Bill again. They mention Bill very briefly in The Last of Us Part 2, but so this is a very different thing. Bill kind of says, yeah, Frank was my partner, whatever, now he killed himself, yada, yada, yada. I like this story more, like a lot more. Like I said, I love a good love story, but I think it makes sense, and we're allowed to really see how Bill helps Joel. I think this is a much better story. I think a lot of fans of the video game are going to be surprised to see that this is the way it goes. I kind of expected scenes with Joel and Bill besides just the real quick flashback scene. But I'm happy. I mean, this story really is about Joel and Ellie, and it didn't need that focus. So I like how they kind of told that story as a flashback sequence in this one episode, which is long, by the way. It's 76 minutes long. And then kind of moved on from it, right? We've seen Bill. We're now mourning Bill, and we're moving on. Because Bill doesn't come back in the video game, so it's not like he has necessary scenes later on. I think this was the smart way to go, and I really enjoyed it. And I just kind of love that they made Bill and Frank actually be in love. Because, like, I really, when I started seeing them together, I was like, oh no, this is going to break Bill. When Frank is like, yeah, I didn't love you. Like, I hate you. So I'm glad we didn't have to deal with that. This episode overall, I really enjoyed. I think it was smart. We start off with with Joel and Ellie. We show Bill and Frank, and then we end with Joel and Ellie, and we're moving on to the future to see what happens next. You guys let me know what you thought down below in the comments. Be sure to give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. You guys can follow me over on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I'm MamasGeeky over there. You guys can also check me out at mamasgeeky.com. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much to all my monetary supporters, my members, and my Patreons. Love you guys.